This is the Ohio AgNet from the Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF and Certain Corn Herbicide. Unleash residual power early to allow for pre- or post-application to attack weeds at their weakest. I'm Ty Higgins. There's a new Ohio AgNet podcast online at ohioagnet.com. It was a win some, lose some year for Ohio corn growers in 2025, but I visit with Ohio Corn and Wheat's president Eric Tipton about the challenges of 2026 and how different this off-season has been compared to previous off-seasons.
This winter's been, I would say, a little bit more of a nervous time frame for, I think, every farmer, not only across the state, but across the nation, too. So we're trying to cut corners where we can, but it's not in our nature to totally take away from the opportunity to grow a good crop.
Plus, the Ohio State Fair has announced some schedule changes. Alicia Schultz is with the Ohio State Fair and Ohio Expo Center.
Traditionally at the Ohio State Fair, to get through all of the species and all of the exhibitors that we want to be able to showcase here in Ohio, it's taken us about 21 days in the pre-fair, days before the general public Ohio State Fair opens this year on July 29th, until it actually ends. And so we've actually condensed that down from 21 days for the vast majority of our species to 15 days. The exception is junior horses and the junior dog show, which still will be a little bit early, but all the other species have at least a portion of their show that's during the 12 days of the Ohio State Fair.
Then a first-of-its-kind conference is coming up next month, the AgriMinds Summit, March 24th and 25th in Marysville. The first and only ag event that focuses solely on the person and not the operation. Casey Bohl is the founder of AgriMinds. I asked her what personal growth looks like.
It can look really different depending on the person and what the goal is at the end, too. So personal development really just takes a look at what is it that that individual needs, pouring into you, not necessarily as a professional and what your job entails, but who are you? What are you carrying? What are your responsibilities? And how are you managing them mentally as well? And so when I look at personal development, it says, okay, what are my areas of opportunities? Not what are my weaknesses, but what are my areas of opportunities? And that's going to look differently for everybody based off of their background, their culture, their personality types, their experiences. And so it isn't cookie cutter, and that's the point.
So how did you come up with the idea? Because I mentioned this is really the first and only one of its kind where you're focusing on the person and not the operation. So why does agriculture need this so badly?
Well, I heard a quote from a mentor several years ago that said, the person that you're best positioned to serve is your past self. And so when I was looking at all of the different areas that I wish that I had available to me, both in my personal and my professional lives, this was what it was. I needed something that didn't teach me about markets, that didn't inform me on how to sell more or lead teams better in just a professional capacity, but how do I also manage being a parent, also managing my own mental load? How do I make sure that my personal relationships aren't getting the rest of me? They're getting the best of me as well. And so I wanted to be able to show up in all of the areas. And honestly, I didn't feel like I could talk about that with my peers at work. And I couldn't really talk to my spouse or my family about that because everybody was either emotionally or financially invested in those conversations. And so I didn't feel like there was a safe place to be like, hey, I'm struggling at home, or hey, I'm struggling at the office, without it raising a bunch of red flags. And so I wanted a place that I could say, hey, I'm carrying a lot of stress, but I also want to be a better leader because I know the way I'm showing up is having a ripple effect on those around me. And so I wanted to be able to look at the human aspect, not just what are my job title in my job responsibilities, but who am I as a human being and how am I showing up to all the areas of life?
More with Casey Bohl about the AgriMinds Summit, Eric Tipton, president of Ohio Corn and Wheat, and Alicia Schultz with the Ohio State Fair and Ohio Expo Center on the new Ohio AgNet podcast, the audio and video versions online now at ohioagnet.com. Let's check the forecast, brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. Here's Ryan Martin.
Sunshine, blue sky, way above normal temperatures today and tomorrow. Getting into Wednesday, we expect a few more clouds to be working their way in. A system trying to pass by mostly to our north, but I won't rule out some hit and miss of scattered showers from I-70 north on Wednesday. I think we can see a tenth to half an inch there, but it's still quite mild. The Thursday is also mild with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Clouds increasing late. Overnight Thursday night through Friday, another round of rain, 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch there. Coverage 80% of the Buckeye State. Behind that, we cool down for the weekend. So Friday night is chilly. Saturday, Sunday, cool. And then we get into next week. Monday, Tuesday, partly to mostly sunny, but chilly. Warming up next Wednesday ahead of another system that brings rain Wednesday night into Thursday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Ryan, thank you. Joel Panorwood checks in now with an update on some important dates on a popular conservation program.
The Farm Service Agency says the time is now for accepting enrollment offers for the latest Continuous Conservation Reserve Program sign-up period. FSA Administrator Bill Beam talks the various options available for producers and landowners.
We have various types of continuous CRP. One is clean lakes, estuaries, and rivers. We call that our CLEAR initiative, which basically prioritizes water quality practices on the land. CLEAR 30, which is a long-term contract compared to some of our others. That practice will last up to 30 years. And then we have the HEL initiative, and that is for producers and landowners to enroll CRP land and establish long-term cover on the most highly erodible soils. That has a weighted erodibility index of greater or equal to 20. And then we have CREP Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, and that addresses high-priority conservation objectives of states and tribal governments across the country on agricultural lands in specific geographical areas. And then we have state acres for wildlife enhancements or SAFE, and that restores vital habitat in order to meet high-priority state wildlife conservation goals.
Now, this continuous CRP sign-up goes through March 20th, and general CRP sign-up is scheduled to begin March 9th, we're told. More information at USDA.gov. I'm Joel Panorwood for the Ohio AgNet.
Thank you, Joel. The Ohio AgNet continues after this. Farmers, crop consultants, certified livestock managers, and agribusiness leaders. Keep up with the latest trends in agriculture March 10th and 11th at the Conservation Tillage and Technology Conference at Ohio Northern University in Ada. Increase your knowledge and bottom line with over 60 presenters. Register for the conference today at cttcohio.com and get exclusive access to videos of the sessions after April 15th. CCA and CLM credits included.
Get ready to bid on the heavy equipment and vehicles you need in a Ritchie Brothers Midwest Regional event happening March 26th and 27th. Inventory is at Ritchie Brothers locations in Columbus, Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, Kansas City, and Lincoln, with in-person inspections available. Bid on a wide selection of excavators, loaders, dump trucks, and truck tractors. Don't miss this great opportunity. Visit rbauction.com/Columbus to sign up. rbauction.com/Columbus.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. What does it take to grow a monster soybean crop here in the Buckeye State? With today's featured audio, here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
Joining me today is Greg Waters. Greg is a farmer from West Lafayette, Ohio. And Greg, you had quite a fall this year on your farm. We're talking soybean production, and you folks participated in the Asgrow brand National Yield Contest with AG36 XF4. And from the notes I have here, a yield of 111.8 bushels per acre. Greg, that's almost unheard of for soybeans in Ohio.
It is very unheard of, and we're just lucky to be able to have some center pivot irrigation that really made these Asgrow beans shine this year in a drought situation.
Well, water is definitely a key. Take us back, if you will. Let's walk through the growing season. When did these beans get planted, and what was the spring like for you?
Well, we had a pretty good stretch towards the end of April. We planted these on April 23rd. They're in 15-inch beans. And we were able to take advantage of that stretch and put them in very good conditions with a good fungicide, insecticide, and inoculant seed treatment.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned before we came on the air, you did a variable rate seeding with that. What's your philosophy on that? Do you go with higher rates in some of the more productive soils, or do you back it off and flip? How do you go about that?
We do drop the population in the better producing soils with soybeans. So in the highest producing areas of this field under the water, we will drop to as low as 90,000 seeds per acre.
Interesting. Tell us a little bit about the soil types you're farming on.
These are sandy loam soils. This is kind of a higher terraced soil that in the past has been used for things like potatoes and strawberries. So these were just turned into actual cornfields, soybean fields in 2007 when we got out of the strawberry business.
So you mentioned that you had a pretty good seed treatment on that, and you did a fungicide and insecticide program. As far as through the season, did you have many chances that you hit it with fungicides, or did you do any fertigation through the irrigation, or what were the plans there?
With the long history of continuous corn in this field and the high health of these beans, we did not need to run a fungicide, but we did run a late fertigation pass at R5 with a small amount of 28 and thiazole.
What sounds like it worked out and paid off well with that kind of yield and in a very challenging growing conditions, even with the soil types and being able to add water when you want. Still did a lot of things right, obviously getting that seed in the ground and established timely. What do you think, in your opinion, as you've looked at this crop and some that you've done in the past, what are some of those keys to success?
Well, you have to pay attention to the crop, and the people that you work with show a lot, whether it's your coworkers, the companies that you work with. It is not just one person. It's a whole team that makes something like this happen.
Absolutely. Definitely a shout out to all those different advisors and folks involved, because it does take a team approach. I'm visiting with Greg Waters today. He had a Asgrow AG36XF4 bean that yielded 111.8. That's right, you heard me, 111.8 bushels per acre last year. That in the Asgrow Brand National Yield Contest. Greg, thanks so much for your time, and best of luck as we go into 2026.
Thank you very much.
Reporting for the Ohio AgNet, I'm Dusty Sonnenberg.
Dusty, thank you. We'll get a check of the markets and some analysis coming up next as the Ohio AgNet continues.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals. Your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
It's time for the Morton Buildings Building Value Days sales event running now through the end of February. Morton Buildings are built stronger, last longer, and look better. So if you're planning for a garage, farm shop, stall barn, a storage building for your RV, boat, or collectibles, or anything in between, act now. Our buildings are built to last, but these savings won't. Visit MortonBuildings.com or contact your local Morton office to take advantage of current savings on new buildings. Certain restrictions may apply. Offer valid only on select new building orders placed between January 5th and February 28th, 2026.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. Today's market analysis brought to you by Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
A weaker day on Friday in the marketplace. Grain markets declined headed into the President's Day weekend. Corn, beans, and wheat futures all were down. Trade volume was relatively high. Active trading in the May-March corn and May-March Chicago wheat spreads on Friday. The wheat volume was the top two largest on Thursday, and Friday's volume was greater than that. They had a huge amount of wheat trade in the marketplace. That probably signals that we're going to be seeing either a limited volatility here this week or we can just stack it up even more. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but large volume is definitely something to pay attention to. Fund wheat bears have made a killing for years by rolling short positions forward amid near full carry spreads. Only 34 contracts were registered for delivery as of last Friday. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. Markets on the Ohio AgNet brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. After Friday's close, March corn up a half cent, 4.31 3/4. May 4.42 a bushel and a 1/4 cent to the good. Soybeans for March down 4 1/4, closing at 11.33 Friday. May 11.48 1/2, down 3 3/4, and wheat for July down 9 1/2 at 5.57 a bushel. Live cattle for February 243.07 after Friday, up 57 cents. April down 2 points at 240.62. Feeder cattle for April 363.45 down 17. May 359.42 off 47 cents. And lean hogs mixed with February up 20 points at 86.95, April 91.27 and down 55 cents. For all of today's farm news, markets, and weather on demand, check out OhioAgNet.com. I'm Ty Higgins. We'll see you down the road.